I'm Bob Trask, and this is our weekly reset. Today we're going to talk about something we've talked about before, probably talked about a lot before. And yet today it's even more important than ever. Forgiveness, forgiving our pasts. We don't have to forgive our futures, but we have to forgive our pasts. Well, I say we have to. We don't really have to. We can live in pain. We can live in discomfort if we want to. But see, here's the thing. Here's the basic thing is that you and I, when we were little kids, when we were little tiny kids, I don't know what you could remember back when you were completely innocent and pure and filled with grace and life was beautiful. And your basic platform of life was joy. That was your basic platform. That's who you were. You were joy. And that joy that you were, it guided your life. It opened you up to new adventures, to new discoveries. And you were constantly discovering, weren't you? When you were a little kid, you were so curious. Everything was about everything. If you remember being around little kids, they're always asking you questions. They're always asking you questions. What if this and what if that and what is this and what is that? And because they're constantly discovering, they're learners. They're really learners. They're really discoverers. And that continues on right up until they start school. Then they're no longer discoverers. Now, what happens is that their brain gets opened up and people start shoveling stuff in, saying, this is what you discovered, this is what you learned, this is what's important, this is, and at that point, you just sort of surrender and start swallowing everything that's given to you. And some of it's not really necessary, and some of it's not even true, and most of it's usable in a good, well-lived life. But part of what you learn is that you're not really okay the way you are. You need to step up. You need to be different. You need to learn math and learn spelling and learn these things that we say are important for you as a human being. And if you don't learn them, then you get graded down. Some kids get A's, some kids get B's, some kids get D's. Some kids get F's. And if you get graded up or graded down, it sort of gives you an idea of your standing in the world. How do you measure up to the rest of the world? Now, that's a little bit unfortunate because before you went to school, you were just fine. Before you went to school, you were on top of the world. You were just fine. You belonged. You belonged exactly the way you were. For the next 12 years, you're going to constantly be measured, not according to who you are, not according to the genius, as Buckminster Fuller said, every child is a genius until he or she is 6 years old. You're not being measured according to who you really are. You're being measured on a curve compared to how you are relative to the other people around you in terms of making good grades academically, intellectually. But this intellect, this brain, is a computer. It's not who you are. It's not who I am. We're not our brains. We're not our thoughts. We're not our thinking. We're not our A plus in math or our D minus in math. Well, that's not who we are. It's not who we are at all. Lots of people get A pluses in math and go on and get great college educations and get PhDs. And a lot of them, hundreds of them, have sat in my classes. And I know them. And I can tell you that they're no smarter than anyone else in the class. Well, they're more educated academically, intellectually. But in terms of common sense, in terms of that intelligent grace that moves through them, no, they're no different than anyone else. No better and no worse. They're just people. And to some degree, they may have been burdened by their education, because education and learning are two different things. Education and understanding are two different things. Academics and knowledge are not the same thing. But what happens to that glorious, beautiful, powerful, wonderful, wonderful self that you are, that you still are, that I still am, that we still are? That gift to the world, that shining light. I mean, look at a little kid in your mind as I'm saying this. Just look at a little kid. Just look at a little girl or a little boy. He's like 4 years old, and he's got his little Oshkosh pants on and his little shirt, and she's got her little skirt, or maybe she's dressed up like a fairy and she's got her little long skirt and something on her head, little flowers or a little crown or something. These are the geniuses of the world. Look at the sweetness. Look at the light that's shining through them. How can we dare diminish that? And yet we allowed it to be diminished in ourselves. Or maybe we didn't allow it. Maybe it wasn't so much that we allowed it, but we were given no opportunity to do anything else, and it was diminished within us. Now we're adults. Now we're of an age. And so I say to you, can we change that? Can we go back and change that? Can we go back and recapture that level of joy? Can we go back and recapture that level of purity, of innocence? And the answer is yes. But there's a problem. There's a big problem. And that's that there was another thing that we learned. And this wasn't about intellectual. This is about our lifestyle. We learned that people can do things that hurt us. People can do things that hurt other people, and we can see that happen, and we can get crushed. We can see people do things to animals, and it crushes us. I could tell you stories that I still remember from the childhood of people doing things to animals. When we get hurt, when we get abandoned by our family, when our parents don't accept us, don't take us into their hearts and completely bathe us with their love unconditionally. No, it's not. Remember these things. Just wait till your father gets home. Just wait till your father. You think you're such a big shot? Just wait till your father gets home and I tell him what's going on. What is that? What is that? What is that? If it's not shame and guilt. And shame and guilt are the cancers of the soul. They're the cancers of the soul. They eat away at us. They destroy us, shame and guilt. And yet it was implanted in us. And it was implanted in us in a time when people thought, oh my God, how dumb can we be? When people thought that shame and guilt kept us right, kept us from screwing up, kept us from making mistakes, kept us from breaking laws, kept us from being immoral, kept us from lying, cheating, stealing. Shame and guilt. I remember like 50 years ago, my first book, Romance or Living Free, I talked about that there's a disease in the world. There's a terrible, terrible disease in the world, and it's called guilt. And that to the degree that people feel guilty, they are apt to commit sins or break laws to the degree that they feel guilty. People who have an identity who have an identity of being guilty, of being shameful. That's their identity. They do guilty and shameful things. That's just the way it is. That becomes their nature. Where did they get that? We taught them that. We teach them that. When you look at Ted Bundy or any of these serial murderers, and you know, I've done work in major prisons and and worked with the worst kinds of, or I shouldn't say worst, it's a terrible word to say, with the most desperate criminals, the ones who've committed the worst crimes of all. And the one thing that was consistent with all of them is that they hated themselves. They hated themselves because of the slime that they were. That they were in prison, they were in this cesspool with all the rest of the garbage. And that and that's where they belonged. And that's why we have such a huge recidivism rate. They keep going back to prison, because they're carrying that shame and that guilt. So here we're talking about today is forgiveness. And we could start off by talking about forgiving ourselves, but I want to go a little farther afield right now. Forgiving other people and forgiving our pasts. Forgiving all the stuff in our past. Because when I forgive other people, then there's forgiveness within me. I can't say I forgive myself, but that damn guy, I hate his guts, but I forgive me. That you can't do that. Forgiveness is forgiveness. And until it's within me, for him, it's not within me. It just isn't within me. So when I look back at my past, I look back at the people who hurt me when I was a little kid, at uncles who hurt me when I was a little kid, at how I got sent away to live with other families, and how my stepfather pretty much brutalized me, and how, I mean, I could go on and on. I could write a story about all those people. Now here I am, this so-called spiritual leader of the world, hundreds of thousands of graduates in 13 different countries, and you know, so how does that guy who was hurt, insulted, disgraced, abandoned, betrayed again and again and again and again through his life, how does he get to be this so-called spiritual leader? You can't carry all that crap and get to where I am. You can't do it. You can't carry all that crap and get to where you are. But because you are a beautiful, beautiful human being, or you wouldn't be watching this. You wouldn't be watching this if you weren't already there. So all I'm talking about is just getting the rocks out of your shoe so you can run faster. That's all I'm talking about. I'm not talking about that there's anything wrong with you. Because you are perfect the way you are. Exactly the way you are. You don't need to change anything. Now, I look back at some of the people who really wronged me. I look at people, there was a woman who disgraced me. She lied about me, she told lies about me, and that lie spread, and a lot of my friends believed the lie, and a lot of my friends abandoned me. And I can look back at that lady and I can say, oh my God, you are an evil, nasty, vicious person. And you did that just so you could get ahead in life. And you didn't care that you left my dead body laying at the curb, quivering in agony. You didn't care. And she didn't care. So I can just hate her for that. Or what I can do is say this. Listen carefully to me now. I can say, she also is a child of this universe, of that great, enormous, powerful, creative spirit that people oftentimes call God. She is a child. She is an incarnation of the light, just like I am. But she's lost. She's lost. Rather than deal with love and let love be the energy that carries her forward, rather than be in joy and let joy be the energy that carries her forward, rather than be in acceptance of others, and let that be the power that advances her in life, she has to betray people. She has to slither around and pull people's feet out from under them and do terrible things to them so that she can be better. Now, would I want to be her? I have to ask myself that question. Would I want to be her? Would I change places with her? Oh my God, no. Then how can I blame her? How can I blame her? She is who she is. She is what she is. So how can I hold resentment for her? How can I be angry at her? How can I want to get revenge on her? How can I say, I want justice? Let me have justice. How can I do that with her? So I love her. I say to myself when she comes up in my mind, I love her. I give her my love. Because if I don't give her my love, if I don't give her my love, then I don't have the love. If I'm giving her my love, then I have love to give. And if I give love to somebody who has hurt me, whoo, boy, that's a lot of love. That's big time love. That's deep love. That's intense love. That's dense love. See, it's pretty easy to just love your child or your wife or your husband or your mom or your dad. A little different to love somebody who screwed you over. But if you can do that, then you grow like the Grinch. Your heart grows 10 times larger. You become more of who you came here to be. That's the challenge. That's the opportunity. You have that opportunity today, right now, today, to think back about somebody who hurt you, who betrayed you, who lied to you, who cheated you. You have an opportunity to look back. Perhaps you were married and your spouse walked out on you. Perhaps you were married and your spouse had an affair. Perhaps you had a job and someone stole money and then blamed it on you. Perhaps anything. Perhaps somebody smashed into your car and didn't leave a note and just left, and your car was beat up. And what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Let me ask you this question, and this is to you and to me. Can we change the past? Of course not. Well, if we can't change the past, then perhaps we should accept the past. Because if we accept the past, then we accept life as it is, not as we think it should be. And if we accept it as it is, then the power inside of us to create gardens of flowers where there now are weeds, to create joy where there's now discourse, to create healing where there's now dis-ease. The ability for us to do that is right there, because now we are showering love on the world around us unconditionally. Not saying, well, I gotta love him and him and him. That jerk over there, no way. No, I love all of them equally because I am love. And until we get there, oh man, it's going to be an uphill battle. Going to be an uphill battle. Lance Morrow said, and I think this is really a beautiful quote, not to forgive is to yield oneself to another's control, to be locked into a sequence of act and response, of outrage and revenge, tit for tat, escalating, always escalating. The present is endlessly overwhelmed and devoured by the past. The present is endlessly overwhelmed and devoured by the past. Forgiveness frees the forgiver. It extracts the forgiver from someone else's nightmare. From someone else's nightmare. Oprah Winfrey said, forgiveness is giving up the hope that the past could have been any different. The past could not have been any different. She was a little black girl. She had a baby when she was like, what, 15 years old from somebody raping her, and the baby died. She went through so much. She went through so much. Oh my God. How did she get to be one of the richest, probably the second richest woman in the world? How did she get to be maybe one of the 2 or 3 most famous women in the world? How did she get there? You know how she got there. If you've watched her show, if you've read her books, if you know anything about her, pure, unconditional love. She doesn't have a bone to pick with anybody. She lets it go, she lets it go, she lets it go. C. Joy Bell C said, people have to forgive. We don't have to like them. We don't have to be friends with them. We don't have to send them hearts and text messages, but we have to forgive them, to overlook, to forget. Because if we don't, we're tying rocks to our feet. Too much for our wings to carry. So we want to fly. One of my favorite spiritual leaders was Jerry Jampolsky. He did such beautiful work. Oh, God bless you, Jerry. He did such beautiful work with children, work with kids with cancer. He just was an amazing guy. And he said, when we think we've been hurt by someone in the past, we build up defenses to protect ourselves from being hurt in the future. So the fearful past causes a fearful future. And the past and the future become one. We cannot love what we fear. When we release the fearful past and forgive everyone, we'll experience total love and oneness with all. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Martin Luther King said, darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. My dear ones, as we go forward through this week, I want us to be able to be who we came here to be. We didn't come here to be intellectually hot shots. We came here to be whole people, whole, complete persons. You have a PhD, maybe 2 or 3 PhDs. God bless you. God bless you. I love that you had that incredible experience of education. That's so beautiful. Apply that education with love. Become a leader in the world. Allow yourself to only be love as you use that wonderful education of yours and applying it to the world. And those of us who haven't had all that much schooling, we are the children again. We are the children of the light. We're carrying forward that grace with a smile, with laughter, with complete understanding and forgiveness, because we say, it is the way it is. That's acceptance, isn't it? Isn't acceptance the same thing as love? Isn't acceptance the same thing as love? You know that because if your husband or wife comes home, or your son or daughter comes home, or your cousin calls you or something, and they've done something really painful to you, and you're not accepting that, are you still in love? No. Acceptance is love. Once I accept it is the way it is, and it is the way it's supposed to be, It is the way. It's the way it's supposed to be. What's going on in your life is exactly what's supposed to be going on in your life right now. You know, you have if you're like most of us, you have two parts of your mind. One part of your mind is that darkness. Oh God, oh no, I don't like. And the other part is, well, this is really cool. Wish we could have more of this. You can have more of this when you make this more of this. And the way you make this more of that is by accepting it and loving it. There's two sides to life. There's negative and positive. And like a battery, you have to have both, or you don't have any energy. That's where the energy comes from, the negative and the positives of life. But what if you don't accept the negatives? Well, you can't just live in a positive. There's no energy in the positive side of the battery. There's no energy in the positive side of your life. It's the accepting the both and balancing them. Accepting means forgiving. Accepting means becoming one with that. I grew up a street fighter. I learned from the men in my family that the way you deal with other men is to measure them, to look them over, figure out what is it going to take you. And then if there's any kind of a discourse between him and me, then I push it until finally it comes to fists. And then I make damn sure I win. That's what I did. I had many fights. I didn't win one of them. Now, the truth of it is that anyone who looked at those would say, geez, Bob never lost a fight. Well, I might have walked away thinking I was the victor, but I never won a fight. I had a fight with a guy in New Mexico, and I went back. I was gone from New Mexico for a while, and I went back to New Mexico, and I went into an auto parts store, and he was working behind the counter, and I had broken his jaw, and part of his face was disfigured. He didn't see me. I watched him, and when I left, I just left. And I thought, I did that. I did that. He has to carry that the rest of his life. I did that because he insulted me, because he challenged me. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't hurt someone else because it might make you feel better. Don't do that. Let it go. Let it go. Let it go with love, with love, with love. Today is the day. Today, not tomorrow, not next week. Not I'll take a look at it and I'll get around to maybe thinking. No, today. Bless those people who have hurt you. Bless them. Love them. They also are children of the light. They also are our brothers and sisters. Would you trade places with any of them? No, you wouldn't. Be who you came here to be. Every one of those pains that came to you so that you could grow, so that you could be larger than you were before. This is the opportunity of a lifetime. This week, let's grow. Let's make it okay for the things that have happened in our lives to have happened. And those people that did it, God bless them. You don't have to become their friends. You don't have to send them nice little telegrams or notes saying, I love you. You don't have to do any of that. You just have to do it within you. Let you become whole again. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you for being with me. Thank you for being love. If this talk has been meaningful to you, would you please go to bobtrask.com, and leave a donation so Mary and I can continue and expand our work in the world of getting messages like this out into every heart, every mind. Thanks, and invite other people to come to this weekly reset. And they can either come at 9 o'clock and 11 o'clock on Sunday mornings, or they can find it on YouTube. Bob Trask weekly resets. They can watch all the weekly resets they want. Thank you for being with me. Bless you. Bless you and bless your family and bless all those people who think and you think have hurt you. May they go away healed, and may you go away healed.